Severe weather is possible across New England as we head into this afternoon and this evening, followed by a massive storm system that will bring an appreciable warm-up across the center of the country as we head into next week, as well as your tropical weather update, all in this video. Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. If you guys have not yet subscribed to the YouTube channel and you guys like weather breakdowns here and long-range weather forecasts across the entirety of North America and the tropics, consider hitting that subscribe button down below and the notification bell to get all of my important updates all the way through the rest of fall into winter and also here all the way through the rest of this year. Thank you guys for joining me this morning. Looking right now, we're seeing typhoon across northwestern Pacific here. This is actually going to make landfall across eastern China as we head into later on today and tomorrow, with lots of wind and lots of rain across eastern China, across this area. And you can see as this moves up into eastern China, this is going to deep into a 986 millibar low and then kind of weaken to a tropical storm as it kind of curves up towards portions of Russia and the Koreas as we kind of move towards the next week's time frame. So that will be something to watch there. Also a tropical system here bringing more heavy rainfall across the center of the ocean here in the Pacific, across the northwest Pacific here, heading up towards Russia as well as we head through the next few days. This is going to be moving up into eastern portions of Russia here as a pretty strong hurricane. It's going to be strengthening to a hurricane with a 957 millibar low pressure center as it gets towards portions of eastern Russia there as we head in through the next week or so as well. So that will be something to watch across the northwestern Pacific. But back here closer to home, the last 24 hours, we did have that, stubborn upper level low pressure system bringing much needed rainfall across some of these areas into portions of Illinois and Indiana, with some drought continuing to expand. But we did have some very heavy rainfall across southeastern Wisconsin and western portions of Michigan into northeastern Illinois. And zooming in here, the winners here across the portions of southeastern Wisconsin are Racine, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, all the way back toward Madison, Wisconsin, and portions of the northern Chicago suburbs. That's where we did see 1 to 4, even 5 inches of rainfall within the past 24 hours with that stubborn upper level low pressure system bringing that wraparound moisture I did talk about in my video yesterday across these areas. But as we head into later on this afternoon, that stubborn low pressure system will start to slowly move off to the east, and this will actually be the main driver for severe weather across the Northeast and New England as we head into this afternoon and this evening. But as we move into the middle of the week towards Wednesday, we'll start to see a little bit more return flow out of the Gulf of Mexico and the southern plains, bringing more warmth and humidity back across the middle of the country, across the Great Plains and upper Midwest as we move into Wednesday, September 14th. But looking, like I said, across the Northeast, the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted this area with a dark green shading color here. That is actually a marginal risk, a level 1 of 5 of severe weather across portions of Maine, getting down towards Boston there, New York City, Rhode Island, Connecticut there, and back into central New York State. But in this yellow shaded color, that is a slight risk, a level 2 of 5 across eastern New York, portions of southern Vermont, New Hampshire, and western Massachusetts here. That's where we could see scattered severe thunderstorms as we head into later this afternoon and this evening. Looking at the individual hazards out there in the green and yellow shaded spots here, that's a 5 to 15% chance of 60 to perhaps 70 mile per hour wind gusts later on this afternoon and this evening, especially across eastern New York, southern Vermont, New Hampshire, and western Massachusetts. We also have a little bit lower of a threat for hail. We could have some quarter-size hail later on this afternoon. That's in that 5% shading, and also not out of the realm of possibility from places along the I-95 corridor from Boston down towards New York City here and down toward Hartford, Connecticut. We could be talking about an isolated, brief, weak tornado as we head into later on this afternoon and this evening. Well, looking at this, why we're seeing this severe weather, this is what we call mixed layer CAPE. This is kind of thunderstorm fuel, as we call it. And what this, what mixed layer CAPE is convective available potential energy. And the more energy you have in the atmosphere, the more thunderstorms will want to fire up and the more severe weather you could have. So looking at this, we're kind of looking at moderate instability values across New England with, these values up to around 2,000 joules per kilogram, especially as you get down towards Long Island, portions of, Connecticut, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and just south of the Boston area later on this afternoon. We also do have some, stronger moisture advecting into the area from portions of the western Atlantic, with dew points rising well into the middle and upper 60s across this area, supporting the threat even for some heavy rainfall. And it looks like as we head in towards the mid-morning hours, we got some scattered showers and a few thunderstorms out there across portions of Cape Cod, getting back towards southern Vermont, New Hampshire, and maybe back here spotty nature into portions of southeastern Canada towards Quebec and Ontario. But as we head into later on this afternoon, that cold front and occluded front will kind of start to shift its way to the east across New England, bringing the threat for supercell thunderstorms that could be producing damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour, quarter-size hail, and maybe a brief weak tornado, especially with southern extent towards portions here of Connecticut, western Massachusetts, and eastern New York State, where we have more of these isolated or widely scattered showers and storms here that could rotate later on this afternoon. But as we get into the early evening hours toward your dinner time frame here, and then thereafter towards sunset, we'll start to wind down the severe weather threat across this area from west to east as we head into that time frame. As we move into the middle of the week here, like I said, we're going to have more zonal flow across the middle of the country with a little bit more southwesterly component to it across portions of the Great Plains and the Missouri Valley, bringing back that return flow with some warmer temperatures across the middle of the country. But out west, we have that zonal Pacific flow from west to east across portions of California, getting into portions of Arizona and Nevada there, and that will really continue more or less as we head into Thursday, September 15th, as we head in towards late this week. And what this will do is we'll see that return flow with warmer temperatures and more humidity across the Great Plains here. Temperatures will be into the 80s, if not low to mid 90s from portions there of South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, all the way south towards the Red River there in Texas. Places like Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, we could be around 91, 92 degrees later on this afternoon, while that upper level low will provide some cooler temperatures with some heavier cloud cover and some showers and storms across the Northeast. We'll see temperatures in the 70s this afternoon as well. But as we head into tomorrow, again, that warmth will continue to build across the middle of the country here, across the Missouri Valley, across the middle Mississippi Valley, with more widespread 80s and lower 90s across these areas, all the way north toward the Twin Cities and western Wisconsin, getting into the eastern Dakotas there. And we could have some cooler temperatures up towards portions of the international border there into North Dakota, getting over toward the arrowhead of Minnesota. And again, cooler weather out west is a much appreciable sight compared to what we've seen a couple of weeks ago with all that heat. So that is some good news across those areas. As we move into Friday, late week, I want to kind of turn your attention to what we are looking at here on this map. We got the zonal flow with a little bit of ridging across the eastern, the eastern 2/3 of the country with the heat out there. But we're looking at a pretty strong jet streak here, moving down across portions of southern Alaska and the Aleutian Islands, diving all the way south here towards the Northeast Pacific Ocean. And this is going to develop a stronger trough, especially as we head towards late this weekend, toward your Sunday, September 18th timeframe. A positively tilted trough here will develop across the west coast here in the Pacific Northwest, and this will provide our next significant, massive storm system as we head towards early next week across the center of the country. But before then, we're going to be warming up here across portions of the Rockies and portions of the center of the country and the eastern 2/3 of the country, like I said, likely from the Missouri Valley through portions of the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley will likely be above normal for this time of year from Sunday, September 18th through Thursday, September 22nd, as we get toward fall equinox there for above normal temperatures just ahead of this storm system. But where we have that stronger trough out west from portions here of Idaho down towards Nevada, Utah, and out back toward the Pacific Northwest and California, we'll be seeing below normal temperatures during this period then. And looking here at this weekend's temperatures with this storm system moving in across the center of the country, we'll warm back up into the middle 90s across portions of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas as we head into your Saturday, September 17th. Some cooler weather up to the north, but still seasonable for this time of year across much of the Dakotas, Minnesota, back into eastern Montana. But as we head into Sunday, that warmth will really start to take shape with maybe some 100s showing up across western Kansas, western Oklahoma, and portions of the Texas Panhandle as we head into late this weekend. So looking at the storm system as it progresses from west to east across the United States here, we're going to see an active jet stream across portions of the Pacific Northwest, the northern plains, and the the upper Midwest as we head into that Sunday, September 18th through Thursday, September 22nd timeframe, right through the start of fall equinox here. And just a classic La Nina pattern with drier than normal conditions here from portions of the Four Corners all the way east toward North Texas and the eastern seaboard here, where we could see some slightly below normal precipitation during this period. Now, I do think some parts of this area, especially across portions of the panhandle of Texas, getting up into Kansas and Nebraska, we could have some rainfall, I think, as we get into the middle of next week. So that will be something to watch as this storm system moves through. In regards to the storm system, it's going to be a pretty strong trough digging all the way down into Southern California here and perhaps even the northern Baja of California. This is a pretty substantial trough that's going to be diving down off the west coast here in the Pacific Northwest late this weekend with that return flow out ahead of that. Yeah, we could be talking about some severe weather here as we have a pretty strong cooling processes starting across portions there of the northern plains and the Rockies here, which as this trough starts to eject eastward toward the Great Plains, toward the upper Midwest, we could be introducing, like I said, some more severe weather and heavy rainfall back into the picture as we get closer towards fall equinox there and towards the middle of next week. And looking more closely at what this could set up to be like is we have a little bit of moisture. The Gulf of Mexico is open. We have southerly and southwesterly flow from the western Gulf and from portions of southern Texas all the way northward into southeastern Canada as we head into early next week. This really enhances as we have a low pressure starting to develop across portions of Manitoba as we head into next Tuesday timeframe, with a strong cold front and occluding system starting to develop across the upper Midwest, all the way down to the Texas Panhandle here, and right along that boundary, the slow-moving boundary at that, will be producing some heavy rainfall and maybe some severe weather during this period as well. Looking at this is a low-level jet here, 850 millibar lows, and you can definitely see that we have a lot of strong, lift with this system. We have a lot of strong low-level component with this, so you'll be seeing some windy conditions up here into portions of southern Canada and portions of Minnesota into Wisconsin with this storm system here as it pulls all of that moisture to the north, and also a very strong 250 millibar jet streak all the way across the middle of the country, the likes of which we haven't seen since springtime, will definitely be the source for lift with this system and to kind of drive some more severe weather potential across this area as well. So we'll continue to watch that. Looking at precipitation, though, into early next week, we could have a little batch of precipitation across portions of Saskatchewan, getting up into Manitoba, all the way back down into the northern and northwestern plains on Tuesday. Right along that boundary that's starting to develop across Minnesota, western Iowa, eastern Nebraska, we could be talking about on average a half inch to maybe over an inch of rain here as we head into next Tuesday. But as the system continues to develop and move to the east, we'll see more widespread heavy rainfall from the UP of Michigan, Wisconsin, all the way south through Iowa, the Kansas City region, all the way back towards Wichita and Topeka, Kansas, and maybe even the Texas Panhandle into Wednesday. And then as we head into Thursday, this system is not going to be moving very quickly at all. So it looks like we're going to have a stripe of heavy rainfall from central Michigan back through northern Illinois, northern Missouri, back all the way towards Amarillo, Texas there as we head into late next week as we open the first couple of days of fall as we head towards fall equinox. Beyond that, though, beyond fall here, as we get toward the very last few days of September, it looks largely like we're going to see above normal temperatures across most of these areas along and east of the Rocky Mountains here, across portions of the Tennessee Valley, the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and much of New England, especially across the Mid-Atlantic and New England, with likely above normal temperatures there. And it looks like we're going to be getting into kind of an inactive period, a very dry period, especially across portions of the northern Rockies, parts of the Midwest, and then back toward the Pacific Northwest with some drier anomalies showing up here, and maybe some drier anomalies showing up from the Tennessee Valley towards the Mid-Atlantic, all the way through Monday, September 26th timeframe there as well. Looking quickly at the tropics, we got a couple of systems we're watching here in the eastern Pacific Ocean. One of these systems have a 20% chance of development. This may become a tropical depression. I'm not too terribly concerned about this system, but what we're really watching here is an 80% chance of development right just to the south of the Mexico border here, actually the Mexico coast, and this is going to kind of move right just parallel to the Mexico coast, kind of take a similar path here to the past system that did kind of move up toward the Baja of California, towards Cabo San Lucas, and we'll be seeing this develop over the next several days. And looking at the icon weather model here over the next several days. This afternoon, we got a developing system. Again, this may become a tropical depression. Again, a pretty low probability of that. But as we get towards late this week, we got a developing system right just to the south of the Mexico coast here and hugging up right along the western Mexico coast. And as we head into this weekend, we could see a developing tropical depression, if not a lower end tropical storm by Saturday, September 17th. And then looking at the water temperatures across the eastern Pacific Ocean here, pretty warm in these orange shaded colors and these yellow shaded colors. That's 75 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit water temperatures here at the surface. So definitely lots of fuel for these systems to work with here. And looking across the Atlantic, we have two systems we're watching. These systems could be named as Fiona or Gaston in the next couple of days. Those are the next two names, as Fiona and Gaston. And it looks like an elongated area of interest from the National Hurricane Center from the southern Atlantic Ocean all the way over toward the Windward Islands here through the next 5 to 7 days. So we'll continue to watch that. And then another system coming off the western African coast that we'll have to watch over the open waters of the southern Atlantic Ocean. And looking at this over this afternoon, again, very quiet across the Atlantic with strong kind of double-barreled Bermuda high pressure systems across the Atlantic right now. These will start to push a little bit slowly farther off to the east here as we head into late this week, opening the door for more of that westerly flow. This might steer this system that develops, potentially if it develops late this week here, towards the Windward Islands. So if you live in the Windward Islands here or have plans down there for vacation, do want to monitor the weather forecast, as we definitely could be talking about a developing tropical depression, if not a lower end tropical storm as we head towards later on here this week. And then really this icon model is actually showing a developing hurricane potentially just near and north of the Lesser Antilles as we head towards late this upcoming weekend, and then eventually kind of moving in toward the Greater Antilles potentially as we get towards early next week. And looking here at the European forecast model here, if this does pan out, and this system does move a little bit farther to the west, it will be moving in an increasingly more favorable environment with less wind shear, warmer water temperatures. So this is a concern as we head through this weekend and especially into next week, as this hurricane season is, around the peak of hurricane season right now. And again, all these warmer waters with these orange shaded colors, even these red shaded colors, especially across the Caribbean, the Bahamas here, into portions of the Gulf of Mexico, the Bay of Campeche here. We could be seeing water temperatures around 80, 85, maybe upwards of 88 degrees Fahrenheit. So definitely a lot of favorability for these systems if they get far enough west into the Atlantic and into the Caribbean to work with here. And looking at the Eastern Pacific right now, we're really in the peak of hurricane season right now, and it's going to start to kind of, weaken just ever so slightly as we get into early October. And looking at this in the Eastern Pacific right now, in that favorable zone across portions of Cabo San Lucas all the way down along the western Mexico coast there, that's where we see these hurricanes more favorable during September, and this really looks like the place to be. That's where we kind of have a lot more hurricanes developing potentially as we get towards later September. We'll watch. And looking at the Atlantic, we're right near the hurricane season, the peak hurricane season right now. This is going to start to kind of weaken a little bit ever so slightly as we get through the next couple of weeks, but still we're right at the top of that ladder now, and we're going to start to climb that ladder downward as we head towards the next few weeks. But again, we're looking at some very favorable conditions developing across the western Atlantic potentially later on this month. So the hurricane season has been pretty quiet across the Atlantic, Caribbean, and Gulf, but I do promise you it's going to be, heating back up again across the Caribbean and potentially the Gulf for the first time this year as we head in towards late September and probably even into October. So we'll watch this again. Right now, favorable conditions, comparing this to climatologies across the western Atlantic, the Caribbean, and the Gulf. So we'll continue to monitor that as we get a little bit farther out. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video here this Tuesday morning. Remember to like it by giving it a thumbs up down below. Leave any of your comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those later on today. And, guys, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're getting so close here. We're growing this channel. Thank you guys so much for helping me out in growing this channel, and all the new subscribers out there. Definitely appreciate it, and helping to grow the community here. Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. Thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. I'll have a new video for you guys tomorrow morning. Have a great Tuesday, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next video.